This episode is supported by Battlefilm.com.
Take control of armies from the 5 kingdoms of Araucania and vie for the throne of the ancient king in Wrath of Kings. Master your skills on the battlefield over on beastofwar.com. From Viking halls to the cities of the future, terrain buffs will love our foreground hub. Watch gaming tables of all genres come to life at beastofwar.com.
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Weekender. Thank you for joining us. You've got Az here, and I am joined by Justin.
Morning.
And the awesome Ben. There we go. It's going to be a weird one.
There we go.
It's going to be a weird one this morning. I think it's been a busy week. We've had a lot going on.
Yeah, it's been a little crazy.
It's been a little crazy. We've had all sorts of filming going on, filming wonderful stuff that I cannot wait to get out to everybody. And I think it's just the energy. The energy's high. I'm fearing an imminent crash. I think I had an energy drink at lunchtime, which is probably a per decision. So if I do crash in 45 minutes, just let me sleep. Aren't naps great?
Yeah, especially when you fall asleep in the office and I decide to empty the bin on you.
That's not happened to me before. Has that happened to you before?
Honestly, no one ever messes with me when I'm asleep. I must look scary or be like Little Nicky, just sounds of the underworld coming out of me.
I must admit, right, I was the kind of person that begrudged a nap all the time. I was like, napping's rough. I always feel off. If I fall asleep and it's not for 6 to 8 hours, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And as I've gotten older, now I have a literal 40 winks. A literal 40 minutes, 50 minutes is like, it's amazing. It's actually the best thing.
Do you ever get those nights where you just cannot fall asleep? Your brain just will not switch off?
Yeah, that's because I'm watching Netflix usually.
No, I will lay down and start falling asleep, and my brain just starts running through the dumbest friggin' scenarios you can imagine.
Dumber than usual. Oh, come on, no.
Usual. Whoa, low blow.
Sorry.
You're okay.
No, that is. I think that's the norm, isn't it? You think and think all day, and then you get home, and then just all of a sudden your brain's just like, let's go. Let's do this. I've got a million ideas for new products.
Would you piss off? I need sleep.
Self-drying mop. It'll make billions. It's just like that.
Hot butter knife. That's the one you got to do. Hot butter knife.
Damn.
Oh, that sounds. No, that needs a health and safety warning right on the label.
That's got to already exist, right? That's absolutely. Lance, if that already exists, picture. If it doesn't already exist, just put a question mark of yourself. Sad.
But how would it work in gaming? Actually, you would just use it for cutting foam.
Well, hot wire cutter is your.
So if you have a hot knife,
you need a wider platform for spreading. We'll come back to it. Anyway. We've got a packed show.
Are we going to end up arguing about the butter to blade ratio for toast?
Okay, we'll come. We have tons of stuff to get into, tons of stuff to talk about. But let's hold on this point for a second. If you've got a piece of toast, right? Yeah. You have to get enough butter to go all the way from one end to the other. If you've got something as thin as a wire or not as thick as a proper butter knife, you run out halfway. Yeah. And that's just, because ideally you go one side and then back the other way. So you go 1, 2, and that way you've got even distribution of butter because it's gone from thick to kind of light and then thick again to light, and you got.
Oh, you're going to hit me.
Oh, why?
The way I butter my toast is I will run the butter knife through the thing until I get the fan of butter up behind it, and then spread that big wedge of butter down along it. I like it really thick on it.
I can respect. I was in Belfast. St George's Market has a beautiful market, and they open on Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays. And Fridays like a farmer's market, Sundays like a craft market, but Saturdays more food orientated. And I was in over Christmas, and I got myself some crepes. And I usually would go down the Nutella route or strawberries or something a bit, but I thought I just want to go plain. Just butter and sugar. And they buttered in the best way I've ever seen anything buttered, ever.
Okay.
The guy had a fork with a brick of butter on it. My pancake was done in front of him. He just took the fork with a brick of butter, straight on. Because the pancake was hot, just a direct block to pancake. I was like, marry me.
Yeah. Although, have you tried a ham and cheese crepe?
Well, I don't know. Crepes are a sweet thing to me.
Look, savory.
It's going to be a weird show. It's going to be a packed show, so let's get into it, shall we? Because I could talk about crepes a lot. So later on in the show, we're going to have an interview with Oriskany.
Yes.
We have an upcoming article series all up set in Vietnam, so that's coming later. We've also got an interview with the guys from UBOOT and their new World War II submarine real-time game. If
you haven't watched it, we do have a Let's Play out.
We do indeed. Oh, it was a wild time. It was epic. So both those to come forward to look forward to. Looking back at the week, though, I want to touch upon something we did that was a little bit different. We did a live stream, impromptu, out of the blue. Very relaxed. It was myself and Leo and Ben. Yeah. Ben Clapperton, Red Ben from the site, who now is working for Mythic Games, but still very, very active in the community, which is fantastic. And they happened to be able to get hold of a copy of HATE, the new Kickstarter from CMON. Yep. So we sat down and we just took 50 minutes leading up to the Kickstarter to sit and chat, and I really enjoyed it.
It was nice.
It was just relaxed. It was really just an interesting way to sit and chat about a game without kind of just muddling anything. It was just opinions and chatting and what we thought about it and how we thought it might do. And as soon as the Kickstarter went live, we had a look through it and kind of what was coming up there, which was really, really nice. So I'm really curious if any of you caught that. If you didn't, we will put a link in the show notes on beastofwar.com. But I'm curious to see what you thought of it. Would you like to see more of us having just impromptu times, live streams, and having little chin wags?
See, for me, normally whenever I think live stream, I'm thinking heavy duty prep, front loaded work to actually get like images and assets and stuff together, re-rigging the entire studio. Yep. This one was light. It was very ad hoc, but I think it worked really well, at least from my point of view anyway. Yeah,
what about yourself, Ben? Are you more into the casual, just chin wags? I mean, this is because you're always kind of nervous about letting people. We bring people in via backstage all the time to what shenanigans are going on in here, but this felt even more a stage, more personal in a way.
Yeah.
No, it was really great. I really enjoyed catching it and watching up and stuff like that. It was fantastic. So yeah, really cool idea for a setup, and hopefully we do a couple more of these in the future. I think that'd be awesome. Yeah.
Let us know in the comments what you guys think, if it's something you'd be more interested in seeing, because I'm curious to know.
For me, I don't think we even have to do it just for Kickstarters. I would love just to grab a game off the shelf, sit down, lay it out, maybe take everybody through a game round, show them how it works, and actually talk back and forth about the mechanics, what we think of the game, what we think of component quality, stuff like that. And just get everybody feeding back together at the same time.
Sharing what we love, I think, is the key there. Or sharing something that's really new. Also, it obviously works. It's worth noting for anyone that's not is unsure. Mythic Games have nothing to do with CMON and Guillotine Games here bringing HATE to Kickstarter, and it's doing very well at the moment. So not to confuse anything there. It was just great. Leo's the kind of guy that you just love to sit down and have a chin wag with. He's just so enthusiastic, and I think it was a really nice treat for me.
But it's the great thing about this industry. The people who make the games we love are gamers themselves.
Absolutely.
So, there's none of this, I'm not going to look at a competitor's product because, they're competing against me. I don't want to be helping them out.
Yeah.
No, they'll just go, oh my God, that looks cool. I want that.
Absolutely.
The game creators get shiny syndrome just like we do.
Yeah, even where there's rival products and stuff, it's clear in both the tabletop and miniatures industry, definitely. There's enjoyment to be had by everyone, and the likes of John Staller and stuff all still play games on a regular basis. And I think if you're not playing games and playing other companies' games, then you're just narrowing your field of vision and doing yourself no favors.
Yeah, but it's the whole point of games are to have fun. They're windows into worlds, new ways to tell stories, and being the storytellers themselves, seeing how someone else tells a story can actually help make them a better games designer.
Absolutely. Totally agree. So on to another bit of an update. This is a little personal one for me, because you and I just went to SteamCon last year.
So good.
It seems like only yesterday.
Yeah, it really does.
Where they talked about, we did a lot of footage and live blog from that, and they talked about what they're doing with the new season. And what they're going to be doing with new minor guilds in Guild Ball. And we've got our first glimpses on the site of the Ratcatcher's Guild.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
This is one that they actually previewed while we were there.
Yeah.
And so they showed off the captain, which I believe is this gentleman on the...
Far left, you think?
So the far left or the guy with the hooks? I can't remember which. Oh my God, they have rat mascots.
Yeah, they do indeed have rat mascots. And a rat ball, which is kind of terrifying.
Yes, yeah.
Look at the wee head sticking out.
Their goalpost is a sewer pipe.
Yep.
It's fantastic.
So the reason, if you head on down and show off some more of these, the reason I wanted to kind of highlight this is it's super interesting to me the way, not only how these are painted, which they are wonderful, but the fact that they're completely bringing an entirely new mechanic to the game through story. The Union are now gone. They essentially, they're kind of being wrapped up, and these minor guilds are going to start coming in and start to be usable by the major guilds who exist. So these are guilds from the minor leagues, the lower Guild Ball tournaments that haven't quite made it up for the big times yet. And I love that they're giving all the same level of attention and detail as they would with any other major guild or anything like that. Obviously, we don't really know anything yet about how they're going to play completely.
I did get in on the sneak peek at SteamCon, so with this information coming out, there are some brand spanking new mechanics that they're going to be putting in here, but the general vibe I get for the Ratcatcher's guild, and this is pure opinion from me, so not leaking anything, is that they're going to be a very tricksy, sort of sneaky poison style guild. So they're going to be denying you abilities to do stuff. And when you're playing Guild Ball, denying your opponent the ability to do stuff, you know, like stealing influence off them or anything like that some people can do. That's really cool. And it really, really hampers your opponent, because it's that resource management game of how much influence am I running out to my players to pull off the plans that I've come up with.
And I must say, I want to give a personal shout out to the guys at Steamforged Games. They've just moved to a big new studio just recently. If you're into playtesting, if you're into Guild Ball and you're interested in the rules and where it's going, go and check out their website, go and check out their blog. They are starting to invite people to their location. Phones have to go in a locked box. Like your phone and cameras and everything get locked away whenever you go into the main room.
Do we just get stuffed in a locker if we ever turn up?
Yeah, we're just not to be trusted. Those cybernetic eye implants for recording we got are going to be perfect for that.
Hey, dude, when those come out, I'm getting one.
The eye, I don't know, needles in eyes and stuff is like, to be...
Yeah, but you'll be out cold. They wouldn't do it while you're awake.
There's bound to be like an interesting story reason why you have to be awake, though. There's bound to be like, your pupil must be dilated maximum for total effect. And there's got to be something to make it horrible and gruesome. Anyway, if you're into Steamforged Games, you're into Guild Ball, or you're into God Tier, the new stuff coming, go and check out their website and put your name in to maybe go and play some games with the guys. I just want to pay attention, and I enjoy paying attention to people that are developing games with story and seasons and not legacy mechanics, but developing it in a way that just seems right for the setting. And I think they are. The
way they've designed the character advancement, that it's actually community input, is changing it, like what they did recently with the Union and Chains, where different teams were actually playing to bring a player to their guild. So we saw people just battling it out the whole way. I think during SteamCon there was actually, I think it was all pretty much set in stone, but I think one of them actually swung the other direction during the event for that Union player.
You're right, I can't remember. I want to say it was the Butchers. I can't remember which one was right, but that's
Butchers to Brewers, was it?
I feel like that's right. But there was one that literally the last days of the event at SteamCon swung one of the outcomes.
And I thought it was lovely that they opened it up for the people at the event to have that effect.
Yeah. Now we, as a little bit of a celebration, a little bit of a nod to Steamforged, we have a little treat to give away.
Ah, yes.
This is something we brought back from Essen. This is the Dark Harvest set from Guild Ball. So we're going to be giving this away today. At the end of the show, we will tell you how to win this. It's basically like it's like a memorial set. It's Thresher coming back from the dead, and what we get is basically these tombstone markers for some of the characters. I took a couple out. Please forgive me. I'll put them back before we send it to you, because it made me a little bit sad. Because let me see if I can get this in close. So here's Salt.
Oh, Salt!
Look at Salt. Salt, the lovely mascot for the fishermen. Look at him, and then, look at that! It's look at him on his little gravestone. Look, I can't
Whose gravestone is it?
That is. I think it is.
I don't think that might. I think Salt might be alive. He's just mourning.
Is it? Are you sure? I do. I think this. Ooh.
Let me see.
Hold on. You look at that. No, I think it is Salt. You know.
It just says R.I.P. on it. There's no name or anything.
Oh no, you're right. That is actually Grayscale's grave. Grayscale grave, Gas grave.
The harpoon.
You got Blackheart's grave, Coin's grave, Snexkin's grave, and also Zombie Thresher. This was a limited edition thing, so we're going to give it away. And at the end of the show, we will tell you how you can pop a comment over in Beasts of War and get entered in to win that if you'd like to. I did.
For Salt.
Right in the fields, man. Right in the fields.
I've got the QQ on the go. Oh God, it's years since I've said that.
So for something a bit more serious then, you and Warren got a chance to chat to Eriskany.
Yes, because our historical editor has decided to visit Vietnam for the Tet Offensive. So myself and Warren get a good sit-down chat with them. I tell you what, we'll take a quick hub break and we'll be right back.
Fame and fortune awaits in Blood and Plunder. Set sail in the golden age of piracy and claim the riches of the Caribbean at beastsofwar.com. Progress comes to a world of magic as science and the arcane combine to make marvels. Meet steampunk inventors and orc mystics at the Volsun Hub on beastsofwar.com.
Okay, guys, so we're joined by Oriskany. Jim, we have you back on the show. Another big article series kicking off. This one is about the Tet Offensive. Justin, we're going back to Vietnam.
You got some of the newer members out there. You weren't there.
You weren't there.
We did a Nam week.
You weren't there, man. But some of you were.
Are we doing this again?
Does
this mean I get to do the pose again?
Absolutely. Right. So, Jim, let's kick off. What is the Tet Offensive?
Okay. Well, January 30th, upcoming, marks the 50th anniversary of the beginning of the Tet Offensive. This is a big part of the Vietnam War. It's considered by many historians to be the turning point of the Vietnam War. It's definitely the biggest series of battles in the Vietnam War, or at least in the part of the Vietnam War that the United States was involved in. It's kind of a watershed, not just for the Vietnam War, but also how modern wars are fought. Yeah. What determines how modern wars are set up and structured, what the objectives are, how they're decided, and how they're perceived, which can make a big difference on your tabletop as far as victory conditions.
Yeah. Well, for me, Jim, like one of the things, most of my, I wouldn't say knowledge, but most of my perception of Vietnam has come from the movies. You know, it is one of those wars that just seemed to spawn some amazing movies. I will say there's some that I've really enjoyed.
What was the air cavalry one?
Is it the Thin Red Line?
Was it?
Was it the one with Mel Gibson?
Yes, that's the one I'm thinking.
Thin Red Line is a World War II movie. The Mel Gibson one you're talking about is We Were Soldiers.
We Were Soldiers. Sorry, We Were Soldiers. Yes. So how much does it differ then, Jim, from the perception that we get from the movies?
Well, the movies is a wide range. Like with World War II movies, or really pretty much any historical era when it comes to the movies and how it pertains to wargaming. There are good ones and there are bad ones.
Yeah.
I will say this, a lot of the movies that we see, I won't say half, but a big portion of the Vietnam War movies that we see, the really famous ones, have to do directly with the Tet Offensive. Platoon takes place smack dab in the middle of the Tet Offensive. Yeah. They don't come out and say it, but if you listen to the dates that are given, the units that Chris Taylor's character, or I should say Charlie Sheen's character belongs to, where they are, who they're fighting, that's the big battle at the end. That's the Tet Offensive. Full Metal Jacket, much more obviously, is the Tet Offensive. Yeah. Siege of Firebase Gloria is the Tet Offensive. It's probably about half the war movies you see, maybe not half, but a huge part of the war movies you see in the Vietnam War are set in the Tet Offensive. And that's because, speaking of perception, a lot of the Vietnam War movies are made by Hollywood here in the United States, and for people in the United States, Vietnam and the Tet Offensive are almost synonymous. It's like World War II, you think D-Day, or the Desert War, you think El Alamein. It's just one of those moments.
Yeah, yeah. Can you kind of give me a bit of a general background, Jim, to the whole thing, to get a feel for where we were at that stage?
Okay, well, Tet Offensive takes place, or it begins the last couple days of January 1968. By then, the Vietnam War had been going on for several years, several decades, depending on who you ask. Yeah. The Vietnamese had been fighting against the Japanese, then the French. And then by the early 60s, the United States was beginning to get involved. We got Tonkin Gulf in 64, operations like Starlight, the Ia Drang Valley that we were talking about earlier with We Were Soldiers, that's in November of 65. By 66, the Americans have realized that they're going to be in Vietnam for the duration. They've started a big buildup. And in 67, they've really gone on the offensive to try and close out this war quickly and get it out of the way. LBJ, President Lyndon Baines Johnson, LBJ wanted it done and out of the way. And so 67, especially the tail end of 67, saw a big American and South Vietnamese offensive against communist positions in South Vietnam. We'll get into that. So the North Vietnamese, and I should say the communist Vietnamese, because they weren't all North Vietnamese. Yeah. Big misconception there that we're going to fix. The communist Vietnamese, by the end of 67, were like, we got to make one last big push to either win the war outright, which some of them weren't convinced they could do, especially in the North, or at least enhance our position at the bargaining table. And so they decided to launch this big do-or-die series of offensives all over South Vietnam. They were going to hit everywhere at once. And they were going to time it for the Vietnamese or the Chinese Lunar New Year. And the name of that holiday over there is Tet. And that's where the Tet Offensive gets its name from.
Right.
Typically there was a ceasefire, at least for the Vietnamese, the South Vietnamese, the Army of Republic of Vietnam. Half of them went home over that weekend. You know, there was not a lot of the military alertness levels were way, way down. Mm-hmm. And so the communist Vietnamese thought that it would be the best time to launch this massive wave of surprise attacks all across South Vietnam. And that's pretty much where we get the Tet Offensive from.
So what can we expect to see, Jim? What are we likely to see in this article series?
Well, we're going to be rolling out 5 articles. I'm going to be working a little bit with my friend Dave Wheeler. Mm-hmm. That's Dave PBG on the site. He's a big-time Flames of War Vietnam fan. He's got some great miniatures, some great armies, so he's helping me out with some photographs, and he's helping me out with some writing near the end of the article series, specifically about Flames of War in Vietnam. He's been a big-time Flames of War Vietnam player for a long time, and he's really able to give some nuts and bolts kind of detailed information about how that conflict works in Vietnam. In part 1, we're going to do an introduction, and of course the plans, the communist plans for the Tet Offensive. Part 2 is going to be the preliminary moves and some of the big initial attacks around Saigon. That's Long Binh, Ben Hoa are some of the big battles we see up there. Yeah. Then we move north near the demilitarized zone. That's the DMZ between North and South Vietnam in part 3 for some of the battles with the Marine Corps. That was mostly the U.S. Marine Corps up in that part of the war. We have the famous Siege of Khe Sanh that everybody's heard of. We have the assault on the Special Forces base at Long Vay. Part 4, we look into, the Tet Offensive is now launched. It's seized all these objectives, and now the Allied forces, we say Allied forces because it's mostly United States and South Vietnamese. Yeah. There are a lot of other nations involved in there too, however. Mm-hmm. We start the big counteroffensive back into these positions that the communists have taken. Yeah. Primarily, that's Hue City that we see in Full Metal Jacket. We do some fighting with the Anzacs, the Australians. Oh, cool. Further south. And then again, in part 5, we do a review of the Tet Offensive, what it meant for the Vietnam War, what it meant for warfare in general, as far as how military and political decisions are going to interact with social decisions involved in the media. Media becomes a huge thing in the war in a way that it never was before. Yeah. And again, that segment with Dave about specifically force on force. With Flames of War. Yeah. I'll be using mostly force on force and Barry S. Doyle's Valor and Victory. Mm-hmm. So we're going to have a range of gaming systems out there that we're going to use to sort of interpret some of these Tet Offensive battles. Now,
a key is it all comes back to gaming on the tabletop again. So, and Vietnam is one of those ones that a few years back was actually quite a challenging thing to game on the tabletop because it again is we're in this true asymmetrical warfare and stuff again. Jim, what specific kind of gaming features are you guys likely to explore during this?
Well, like you say, Vietnam is very different from a lot of other wars. Or at least a lot of wars up to 1945, up to the end of World War II. After World War II, we get into a lot of this asymmetrical or non-kinetic, or there's all kinds of different terms for it, low-intensity warfare, where the model becomes much more Vietnam-like. Vietnam becomes a lot more typical of wars after 1945. It's true asymmetry. It's not, just a few really powerful units against a bunch of really weak units. It's really two very different armies. Yeah. One side has complete freedom of movement and complete freedom of tactics. They can fire at civilians. They can fire at their own people. They can, blow up, whatever they want. Yeah. The Americans or the free world forces aren't able to do that. They have to worry about casualty management. Mm-hmm. When to keep it back on the gaming table, when you take a casualty, you don't just do the usual reach out, pick up the unit, take it off the board. you have to like push that figure over or replace it with a casualty token or something, you have to manage that casualty now. You have to go out and get that guy. Whether he's killed or wounded or whatever, no man gets left behind. You have to go out and you have to get him. You have to dust him off to the rear. And that means that every casualty you take is actually going to start to tie down 3 or 4 or 5 assets of yours. You have to get somebody out there to get them. You probably have medics on the table that the Viet Cong or the NVA are free to shoot at. You have to invest a miniature to pull that miniature back into an area where you can get looked after. You have to get some sort of evacuation unit, helicopter or vehicle to get them off the table, and it becomes this massive drain on your forces. You can't just send your units anywhere you want, because if any of your units become too isolated, they might take ashes. You can't get anybody out to them. You have to keep your forces much more. It really starts to impact your mobility.
This is something I'm so looking forward to.
Problems posed by civilians. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Seeing the whole casualty map, because again, it brings back those moments of the movies with the Hueys and all flying in and air vacuuming them out and stuff like that.
There, goes in, dropping.
And I think I'm really looking forward in the article series to seeing the impact that has, because that for me is the definition of tabletop genius. When you find something that isn't normally in a war game, and you say, well, actually, we're going to make this quite central to the game for this particular army. This is going to be your drawback. Yeah, you're highly overpowered, but that means nothing whenever you're having to constantly manage stuff off the table.
You can't bring it all to bear, or you can spread your forces out to actually take care of these small pockets of resistance. Because it's too much of a risk.
Justin makes a very good point about how you've got all this great firepower, but you can't bring it all to bear. There are some scenarios in Force on Force, and we definitely do this with the Battle of Hue City, where the Marines have some ridiculous amounts of firepower available in the forms of airstrikes and artillery strikes. Hue City is the old imperial capital of Vietnam. It's, the cultural center of their city. And at first, the rules were you're not allowed to use artillery and airstrikes. Because we're trying to keep, the collateral damage down. We're trying to save the emotionalness of the symbolic heart of South Vietnam, or really all of Vietnam. And so every time, you have F-4 Phantom airstrikes, you have heavy cruisers and battleships left over from World War II that you can call in artillery fire support. This is right by the coast. Here's the problem: every time you go ahead and access one of those support packages for your force on the tabletop, that's victory conditions for the enemy. Yeah, so go for it. You got all you want, and every time you do it, your opponent is reaching his hand across the table and shaking your hand. I appreciate the victory points. You just blew up another big part of the Imperial Palace, or more of these, cultural landmarks for the Vietnamese. You'll win on the table, but you might lose the game because you're leveling the city, which is exactly what happened historically. It's the jury's out whether or not Hue City was a victory. Of course, the Marines considered a tactical victory in our history, but politically and socially, Tet Offensive wasn't really. That had some different outcomes, and we'll get into that in part 5 of the series.
Fantastic. Well, look, Jim, I'm really looking forward to it. We will get you back on the show, Jim, some point during the article series to get an update from you and get even more insight on this. But Jim, thanks for joining us. We'll head back to the studio.
You get the other one. You get the other one. I get this one. We'll do it together.
Stop it!
Okay, so this is going to be a very interesting 5-part series with basically the guys looking at the different eras and different cities. What's really interesting to me is the asymmetric nature of the warfare that they're having to face here, with the one side having all the best tech, having big artillery and stuff, not being able to actually use it without actually giving a bit of a win over to the other side. You blew up that city. You were meant to keep that in one piece. Well done.
It's going to present a really interesting opportunity on the tabletop. I've already seen a couple of sneak peeks of the pictures of the tabletops he's putting together. They look amazing. And he did assure me, I don't know if this came up, but he did assure me that all the signage doesn't say anything naughty. He is the historical editor at Riscany. It's so good. He had tons of signage in the cities, but assured us that he got them all translated, and none of them say anything that they should.
Right. So there's nothing that's saying red light district this way.
Exactly. Well,
or worse.
Read the article series and make sure he's kept it right. No, I trust Jim.
Yeah.
Anyway, in news outside of us then, what's been happening in the world, Ben? What's first up today?
So the first thing we're going to be looking at is some stuff for Star Wars Legion. There were a couple of big previews that came out sort of the end of last weekend, start of the week as well for this week, looking at two of the big heavy vehicles that you can get for both the Rebels and the Empire. The first of them is looking at the T-47 Airspeeder for the Rebels. So this is one of their awesome vehicles that's coming into the game. It's a little bit unlike anything that we've seen so far in that it's very, very quick. It's going to be used almost like in its sort of swooping attack run style that you see on the tabletop. So it's not going to hang around for a long time. It's going to be zooming in and coming back in and doing passes when it takes out vehicles and stuff like that. One of the cool things about this is that you obviously get a whole bunch of upgrade cards and bits and pieces in there. So you get, your wedges and all that kind of thing like that. But the awesome thing that we saw in the preview was it's going to have a special maneuver using its sort of grappling harpoon gun at the back.
Yes.
Yeah, so a little bit like in the film, the airspeeder can shoot its harpoon gun at a vehicle, like the ATST, for example, and then can yank it into a different direction. So if this ATST is lining up to take out one of your troops or whatever, or it's aiming for your leader, you can pull it in a different direction, make it face off in a completely random way, and then you'll be able to take it out of the fighting for a little bit as well.
Man, if firing arcs is a thing, I mean, the ATSTs are very... they can rotate a lot quite easily, but if they can't shoot behind them, which obviously they can't, or easily turn, affecting that firing arc with an airspeeder or land speeder sounds amazing fun.
Yeah, we didn't actually see prototype miniatures for these.
We did
at
Essen. Essen. Yeah, we did,
Essen.
and they're actually
pretty
amazing.
damn big.
Yeah, in fact, do you have, Ben, information about the comparison between Imperial Assault and Legion with the ATST?
Yeah, so the ATST itself is probably around twice the size of a typical ATST from Imperial Assault. There is an image hanging around there somewhere on the internet, but it is absolutely huge. You should actually be able to see it against some of the ground troops in one of the other stories that we put up this week as well, which would be pretty fantastic. But so yeah, it is immense as a walker. So
yeah, against the Legion ground troops that are there, it does look absolutely stunning. Oh, there we go. That's up now. Yeah, that's epic. I must admit, Lance, sorry, stick in the comparison shot. I love Imperial Assault versus Legion. It's just, when you see the detail, it's not just the size, it is the detail.
Yeah.
Whenever you looked at the Imperial Assault mini, it didn't look like it was lacking anything until you see it beside the Legion one, and all of a sudden you're like, wow. You can see where they cut corners on hatches and vents and details on the legs because they needed to for that scale, and because it was a board game and the way they were casting, I'm sure they had to.
Don't forget what people imagine in their mind as the old ATST was probably very close to what the older version of this is. Because don't forget, it was really old movie made with actual figurine models and stuff. They actually had to make them up. Or did they do CGI? Did they have that back then? I don't think they did.
I'm not getting involved in that question.
Okay, but it would have looked...
one of the interesting things actually about the ATST, because they go into a little bit of details about the tactical uses for it and stuff, is that it's a heavy choice, so it's going to take up a huge section of your sort of tournament legal points values for your armies and stuff. But it's pretty much invulnerable to like small arms fire from soldiers or whatever. So going back to what we were talking about with the airspeeder, being able to turn it in different directions is quite handy if you're going to be activating other units at the same time, because you'll be able to shoot it in the rear and get some extra damage out of it and stuff like that and change things around. So there's a lot of tactical stuff already going on in the background for what's happening with Star Wars Legion. And the important thing as well to remember is that all of these sort of expansion boxes that are coming out pretty much at exactly the same time as the core game. So when that comes out, you're going to be able to get loads of expansion stuff at the same time to add on to that and sort of build your armies with for tournaments and stuff. So,
absolutely key. They've clearly had a lesson from Rune Wars and realised that you can't wait 6 months, 9 months, 12 months. It's just, I mean, with Star Wars maybe you could because it's Star Wars. But it's great to see this. And you're an XLBS, Ben. You've said that you've been limiting what you're going to be playing in this year a little bit. Are you seriously telling me you're not playing Legion?
I'm going to come at this from the prospect of I'm never going to buy it. But if someone happens to buy a copy of Star Wars Legion, then I'll play as the Empire. So that's my takeaway.
It's what local game stores, friendly local game stores, and brick and mortar stores and clubs and our Sunday club. It's what it's meant for, isn't it? Whenever you really can't commit to it, but you want to play it.
See, I'm very curious to actually get the models in my hands at this stage, because this isn't going to be pre-assembled, pre-painted. You're going to have to build and paint these yourself. So I want to see what the model quality is like on the sprue when you're putting it together, when you're laying paint down on it. I'm very curious about this.
What, you think it's going to come in a sprue?
From what I understand, it's coming unbuilt, unassembled. So if it's done in hard plastic, most likely it'll come on a sprue. If it's maybe done in sort of the rustic that we've seen, that sort of plastic resin hybrid, maybe not.
Ben, do you know how Rune Wars came? Did it just come in bags?
Rune Wars came in bags, and I'm fairly sure that's what they're going to be doing with Star Wars as well. So you'll come with bags that'll be set up for like troopers and then a hero and stuff.
Maybe. Well, I don't think they actually pre-clip them. A lot of the times, whenever I see that kind of stuff, it looks like it's just ripped off the sprue because you get that white break point that you always see whenever.
Flash.
Say you bend, see whenever you bend a bit of plastic, it turns white before it breaks. That's what you always see on those where the break and the actual vent point is.
Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm really curious to see what that's like. I still think, if you didn't see it earlier this week as well, we also had a chat with Don and Gianna about Adepticon, and I'm thinking Legion is going to be Adepticon. If you're going, be prepared to delve into Legion.
Yes, but just take a segment of your wallet and go, okay, Star Wars section.
I need a Star Wars section of my wallet. It turns to me bus pass, driver's license, Star Wars.
Yeah, just you take like a money clip with Darth Vader's head on it and just put it into one.
It can probably replace my gym card section because that never gets used.
What's a gym?
It's our historical editor.
Oh, okay.
It's going to be a weird show, right? I said it at the start. Anyway, what else is happening in the news then, Ben?
One of the other big things that came out this week was a section of previews from the guys at Mantic. Obviously, last year they ran the Kings of War Vanguard Kickstarter, which went down very well, which was sort of like a skirmish-based version of Kings of War that you play with sort of in the vanguard, as you will, of the armies that go out and fight these big battles in the world of Mantica. This has been a new update that showed off some of the new sort of renders and things they've been working on for some of the additional factions that were sort of added into the mix when it came to the Kickstarter. So we've got a lot of stuff looking at the Abyssals and also looking at the Northern Alliance as well. So we kicked things off with a huge model, and this is the Despoiler, which looks like it's something that's come out of Doom, which I really
literally
like.
the exact franchise I thought of upon seeing that. That is epic looking.
Yeah.
And then, nope.
No.
It's got all of my nope.
And then we move on to a little bit more of a, I guess you'd say, a subtle miniature, where we've got the large gargoyle there that you can see, which is a little bit of sort of like a demonic mix between the sort of natural style you'd look at for a gargoyle, mixed with maybe a little bit of a devil in there at the same time. I thought it was pretty cool.
That is an incredible gargoyle. Like gargoyles are one of those things in D&D that I freaking love.
Gargoyle or gargal?
That's a gargoyle. Yeah, nice. But gargoyles are one of those things that, you know, the traditional puzzle. They pose the puzzle questions and they're mischievous and they're annoying and frustrating. But I love the idea of having a small gargoyle that morphs in, if you get the question wrong, to something like that. Like, that is just demonic looking. I love it. The stone, the cracks in the bodywork, the stack in the render are just wonderful.
Oh, do you remember the old cartoon series Gargoyles?
I do, yes. It was very good.
No, it's not one I watched, I'm afraid.
Oh, dude,
I was too busy watching Thunderbirds, man, and
oh no, it was so good. It starts out in medieval times with a clan of gargoyles.
The restaurant?
Medieval times.
Yeah, the restaurant, medieval times.
No, basically, right, I'm going to be pedantic about this.
Do it.
It was set in the medieval era, and there was a clan of gargoyles defending Camelot.
Okay.
And
defending Camelot?
Yes, and there was basically a wizard there who cursed them.
Okay.
So that they would be turned to stone until the walls of Camelot were raised above the clouds. Switch forward to modern day, a multi-millionaire has bought the castle, took it apart stone by stone, and rebuilt it at the top of a skyscraper, and they come back to life.
What?
Yeah.
What?
My childhood, welcome.
And now they're superheroes in a way. So
wait, and now they're superheroes in a way?
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, you're in modern day, you've never seen a gargoyle, these things can fly, they're made of stone, bullets have no effect.
What?
You missed out. You clearly missed out.
I was too busy watching the Magic Roundabout and Mr. Ben.
Okay,
a different kind of trippy.
That next level of trippy. God, was that not one that they deliberately mistranslated, or the guy couldn't speak French, so he just made it up?
It sounded an awful like the guy who was commentating or narrating it was awfully off his face. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what else romantic bringing us?
So as well as that, we've got some sort of character models as well. So we've got the Lurker there, shown in her armor, and then there's also the Abyssal Seductress as well. So you've got some leader figures there that can sort of take the place of your typical demons at the head of a abyssal army in the world of Mantica.
Is it wrong to call dibs on a mini? Wow, that's hot. I like it.
Yeah, it's a really, really
it is a really nice mini. I like it.
Yeah, I love the blades on sort of the gauntlets.
Mm-hmm.
It is very cool. It's a really nice sort of aesthetic that they've gone for with this, which I thought was really good. So it's sort of blending a lot of stuff that people have really enjoyed with the look of maybe Dark Elves, but then sort of attaching it to this almost devil look as well. So it was really nice.
Yeah, is that a chain of hearts in her hand?
It is a chain of hearts.
I might have to change my mind.
So this is kind of like the horror version of what's it? Cupid.
Ooh. Okay, I completely changed my mind then.
The wrong kind of Valentine's.
Okay, what else is next?
So as well as that, we've got to look at the Northern Alliance that were added in as sort of stretch goals and add-ons. So we've got the Huskarl here for the Northern Alliance there, with his shield and axe ready, and sort of like a little bit of a battle stance. And then moving on, we've got a little bit more fantastical stuff. So we've got the Ice Naiads, which I think are looking absolutely fantastic. I always like the idea of anything to do with ice and elemental versions of ice in games. So it's really nice to see these creatures that are sort of born of water, but they've got this nice ice flavor to them. It's a cruel look as well.
They nail elementals, man. There's something. They're fire elementals and they're ice. Every time I see Kings of War on the table, when Jerry's in playing, they nail their elemental stuff.
Although this last guy, that's not a battle stance right there. That's him walking into the bar, legs spread. His mates have just bought him a dirty pint, and he's gearing up for it.
So it's a chug stance, I guess.
That is a total chug stance. Tell me that is not a drinking pose right there, Mantic.
That's good. That's good.
Okay, moving on then. What's after the ice elementals?
Yeah, so after the Ice Naiads there, we've got look at the Ice Witch. So she's one of the characters that you can pick up. So obviously, these are all usable in Vanguard, but then they can be translated into being used in the mass battle game as well, as you might imagine. Which she's looking out absolutely fantastic as well. A really great looking render for this as well. So yeah,
28 mil?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all 28 mil. Yeah.
She would be again an amazing D&D villain. I'm loving this fantasy stuff. Oh, hello,
Dwarven Hero.
Here we go.
Had to be one.
And it's like Mantic always channel me wherever I go, whatever I look at. So there's always a dwarf somewhere, and so Mantic showed off one of the dwarf shield breakers that they've been working on here, as you can see. This will be one of the sort of models that would be more of a troop choice than it would be an actual hero. But the thing that I really liked about this was that, again, you could kind of use this guy separate from Kings of War or whatever, and use this guy in D&D, making a fantastic fighter or a cleric model.
He's the guy that's ordered the dirty pint. Look at him. He's like, hey, get in here.
Hey, Biggin, we got you a gift.
Those are epic. That's a really nice spread. What a huge amount of updates. Really nice. This next one, Ben, is a little bit bewildering to me. I must admit, I saw this and I kind of glanced at it and I don't feel like I really took it in. So this is a Warsaw Uprising Kickstarter that's coming in February.
Yeah, so this is from a guy, Infamous JT, who's a little bit of a painter and he does stuff in the background in terms of modeling and hobby and all that kind of thing. But he's worked with a team, including a whole bunch of sculptors and artists, to bring together this Kickstarter that's coming in February for the Warsaw Uprising to sort of commemorate the anniversary of it.
Yeah.
And this was all during World War II. It's where the Polish sort of rose up against the Germans and things like that during the period. And so what he's done is he's worked with these sculptors to create a whole bunch of historically accurate sort of characters based on photographs and things like that, just for the period, for collectors, for people that want to sort of add a little bit more sort of personality into their armies and things on the tabletop, or maybe if you just want to do some painting as well. So as you can see, they've got the looks of a really cool vehicle there in the mix, as well as a whole bunch of different characters from both the sort of the Polish side as well as the Germans and all those kind of things as well at the same time. So yeah, some really cool stuff. And one of the big things that I wanted to throw in there as well is that they're actually going to be creating this Kickstarter exclusive model. The guy's name, I'm probably going to ruin it, but
you got to give it a whirl. Yeah,
it sounds like Eugenes Lukaski. I'm going to hope that's right. If not, I'm very, very sorry to anybody that's Polish. But this guy was a very influential figure during the period. He fought for the Polish Defense Force and things like that. He ran an underground school during the period, and he was a very, very big photographer as well. And so they commemorated him with this fascinating-looking miniature here, as well as a little tiny sort of mascot cat that is sort of taken as one of the defining images of him from the period as well. So nice little bit of that's kind of like fact is stranger than fiction thing going on at the same time. And if you want to read any more about it, you can go and check out the news piece, because we've got a big huge chunk of text in there about sort of all about him and his history and all sorts. So yeah, really cool thing coming up in February. So yeah,
this goes to prove one thing: even before the internet, people loved cute animal pics. No, I kid you not. How many times have you seen like war pictures where soldier with puppy, soldier with kitten?
Man, the
very true.
There is something scientifically proven. There's someone, please comment below. Ben might get me right in this, but there's something that humans are automatically attracted to things with big round eyes.
Yes.
It's something about soft faces, round round big eyes that we can't. We warm to them more easily.
Yes.
So I mean, kittens and puppies. I'm sure for as long as time, right down to the wolves. We were just like, oh.
Look at that little puppy. Okay, I took my finger.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure some fingers were lost to overly endearing animals.
That's what I always wondered about. Who was the first human who actually tamed a dog?
Well, there is that film that's coming out about that. I'm not entirely sure how accurate it is.
What?
I'm fairly sure it's a... Yeah, there's a film coming out about a boy meeting this wolf and him taming this wolf, and it's like the story of man's best friend. It's probably complete and utter poppycock. I'm sure it very much is.
Did you just say poppycock? Did you just
poppycock,
say poppycock?
Yeah.
Oh, bad pun.
Wow. I thought the bar was as low as it could go, but apparently not. Anyway, I like seeing companies doing these real character things. Stoessi's here, because I must admit, historical gaming is not something that's ever really won me over. But every single time Stoessi's Heroes comes out with something, where there's a story and a character and a history attached to it, it makes me just want to delve in. And
I love that.
Yeah, you can't have an army of characters, but you can have a leader, or when you're reenacting, God, I'm going to murder the name now, the guy that did the charge at Catan. Oh, isn't it?
War?
World War II. He threw the smoke grenades that led the charge on the Germans in Catan. Go on, Ben, quickly Google it for me, save me. Yeah.
Do you mean Carentan?
Did I say Catan? Carentan?
It is Carentan.
It is Carentan.
Yeah. I cannot remember his name now, but I know exactly
Cole's Charge, is that right?
Cole's Charge.
Is it Cole's Charge?
Cole's Charge.
The story of that and that mini just completely won me over. I'm going to order the mini on its own when it's for release, because I think it's still pre-ordered at the minute, although I should check that. Because it won me over, and it made me want to play that scenario on the tabletop, and bring that back, and having something that's modeled like the person, and seeing the fact they put photography in. And the one that caught my eye with this one, Ben, was having minis you would never get in any other war game. You wouldn't have someone with a camera and a cat unless it meant something and was based on real historical fact, not war and real historical fact, actual real historical fact. And to me, that's really it's endearing, and it makes it more real for some reason. It draws me in a way that makes me a little bit emotional towards. Well, that's it. It takes it from the abstract and brings you in a way that isn't showing you necessarily the horrors of war. It is focusing on the heroes. It is focusing on the good stories, and in this case, the slightly different. And I really genuinely like that. It's a really nice project.
It's one of those things you'll find. History will tell you stranger stories than the best sci-fi writer in the entire world.
Yeah.
What has actually happened in history could blow your mind.
Yeah.
There was one I heard about from World War II. There was a troop of Shermans, right? And the day starts, they're all told, right, you're advancing up this road. And one of them had drawn the lot to be front of the queue. So they start driving out, and the next thing you know, they hear this almighty bang, and the tank sits over on its side.
Okay.
So they get out after a while and figure out there's an idiot on the hill up ahead of them, and it's fired a high explosive shell at them, which hasn't penetrated them. If it had been the army piercing shell, they were dead.
Yeah.
So basically, just by pure luck that the Germans up the hill had run out of ammunition, they'd run out of AP and fired HE, they survived.
Yeah, it's like it's hard to even think about the kind of scenarios that arose from those situations.
You also had another one. There was I think it was a Cromwell commander actually missed the chance to kill Michael Vittman because he was out of his tank taking a piss. Actual historical fact. You can go look it up.
How do you go back? How do you go back to the barracks after that? My goodness. You don't tell anyone, do you? Anyway.
Well, apparently you told somebody because we know the story.
All right, Ben, lighten us up. What's the next up and what's the big release?
Okay, yeah. So the next thing we're going to look at is something we talked a little bit about over Christmas on the site, and this was at the time it was the previews for the new Age of Fantasy terrain coming out of Classcraft. So this is all their color ed stuff or colored stuff. So all of the terrain pieces come completely colored already. So all you need to do is stick them together and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
Now this Age of Fantasy terrain is actually available for you to pick up from their web store. So if you liking the look of this, you can go over and check it out now and grab it and stuff. I think it looks fantastic. It's got this really nice look to it, which I hesitate to say the word generic because that always seems like a bad term.
Yeah.
But it looks generic in the sense that it would be fantastic for a whole bunch of different uses on the tabletop, regardless of what kind of fantasy world you're playing in, etc. You can maybe even use it for some historical stuff at the same time, which I thought was really nice. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
They've done a great job. See, if you just go back to that one for a second, Justin, they've done a great that one there. They've done a great job of the bits where the kind of it's card, right, isn't it? It's all like it's. Yeah,
so most of it is made out of the sort of card, but it's also then been done using MDF pieces at the same time as well.
And that's it.
Throw that in. So,
the MDF that they've put in to support everything and keep it all together, they've done a great job of integrating it all into the building, so it looks natural the way it should. It doesn't make it stand out. The way these go together, I think, is fantastic.
It's one of the things they've actually been working on for quite a long time, looking back over the rest of their color ed range. So they actually started off using, I think it was some of the Far Eastern stuff, and they used the MDF in that sense through there. But then they've sort of perfected the look of it now, and I think it looks really nice, and it works very nicely with what they've been doing in terms of the coloring for the edges here as well with these buildings, which I thought was really good. And it means they can then extend this to look at larger, more complicated pieces. So if you look at the windmill, for example, you've got those sails which look absolutely fantastic on there. So yeah, it basically just means they can do a lot more detail work, but then not add too much work for the person that buys it when they want to get it set up for the table. So it still has that quick sort of angle to it when you want to get gaming and stuff. So yeah. Yeah,
I think this is the thing. I think I've had a reasonable amount of experience, obviously, with before with pre-painted stuff. Pre-colored stuff we haven't had in a huge amount of.
We've had pre-colored stuff, but not pre-printed stuff.
Yes, exactly. And so
apologies.
No. Because that's it. Pre-painted, pre-colored, pre-painted, pre-colored,
and pre-printed.
Pre-printed.
Because this is this is what I would call pre-printed, because you have a printed texture on your component.
What do they call it? Pre-printed, Ben, or do they call it?
Well, it's just named pre-colored because it's got all the colors on it already.
But it is printed.
As a capture.
So whenever you look at something like this, all the details are already there. You're just tidying it up and getting it put together.
The tricky thing, I guess, is that there isn't any way to but you couldn't dry brush this to make it better. It's kind of like you really got a finished product there, and you kind of, because if you buy some pre-painted stuff, usually if you wanted, you could ink it, or you could try and touch it up, or you could change the things. That's an interesting call.
Weathering powders would do wonders to like the bottom edges and stuff of this. If you got like a really bright one, you could do like a verdigris if you needed. If you had like copper components.
So if you wanted to moss it up, or you wanted to darken it some, if you wanted to,
some
nice.
powders.
See, that's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, it's one of the things I've seen people doing a lot with this terrain, because you have that clash, as Justin was saying, between the actual base of the terrain piece and then the board itself. Yep. So a lot of people take the pieces and then they create bases for them, so they can be integrated a little bit more into their own terrain and stuff. So yeah. That's
interesting, because I must admit I was wondering how you would. Because I think the fact that they'll work in so many settings is fantastic. As you mentioned, Ben, the universal use of it is great. But if I wanted to dingify it, or if I wanted to break it up a little bit, what my options were, so that's cool.
Yeah, there's also there's a clump foliage we have here in the studio. Whenever you rip it up and do it in like little lines along the bottom of it, it just looks like little bits of overgrowth and hedgerow coming through, or as if someone has planted like a hedge around the house.
Yeah.
And then that sort of break between the line actually softens it into your table.
Nice. There you go. I don't know. Maybe you guys all knew that. Maybe someone learned something new. Let's hope they did.
We did it for the Team Yankee boot camp, Ludoslavia, the little cabins we had. John was doing that. What?
That was Rain Man-esque. That was epic. It was 1992, and it was a Monday, and it was wet outside, and I just had fish and chips the day before, and
what the hell?
That was epic. That was Well remembered. Okay, so that's it for news. We're going to chat about a couple of Kickstarters, but before we get into a couple of feature ones, we have just, if you haven't watched this already, go and watch our playthrough. We'll put a link below to our playthrough of UBOOT, the new Kickstarter real-time cooperative game. You, me, and John had a blast.
We almost got blown up.
Several times. In fact, well, I don't want to give anything away because you got to sit down with the guys, chat about the game, and a bit about what went on.
It's Mitch.
Yeah. So we're going to take a quick break. I'm going to come back with John and Justin and the Iron Wolf Studio guys to chat about UBOOT.
It's time for 28mm World War II action. Will you recreate history or reshape it your way? On the Bolt Action Hub at beastsofwar.com. Humanity has been driven from Earth, but now it's time to take it back. Join the Reconquest and fight the Scourge on the Drop Zone Commander Hub at beastsofwar.com.
Hello everybody and welcome. We are joined by Bartek and Arthur from Iron Wolf Studios, and today we are talking about UBOOT.
Well, actually, it's either U-Boat, the board game, or if you want to say it in German properly, it's U-Boot, das Brettspiel.
U-Boot. Okay.
Yeah, so das Boot, not das Boots, as many people mispronounce it.
John, you taught me wrong.
I am guilty of that.
I'm blaming you.
I am guilty of that.
Okay.
Is this his fault?
I blame him for everything. Everything that goes wrong is that man right there.
Yeah, okay.
But anyhow, you guys have come along with this fantastic submarine warfare game, which actually comes with a companion app. And now, we've had the chance to play it. If you've not seen our playthrough of it just yet, go and check it out right now before watching this. It's fantastic. It is tense. It is... And basically, we had fun. Yeah?
We almost died.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Don't blame the navigator.
It only sank a little.
So, guys, what actually made you want to create this game?
Well,
that's a good question.
very good one. So, shortly, our investor has asked us to prepare a board game featuring the Type 7C U-Boat, as seen in the iconic movie that we all know about. And there were certain general premises, like it has to be technical, has to be realistic, has to be technically accurate and all that.
Yep.
So we sat down and thought for quite a long time to put it all together. And
at the same time making something new, something fresh.
Yeah. That was one of the biggest things that we planned for this game from the very beginning. It was not supposed to be just yet one another co-op game.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I sit down to this game, and I'm sure you'll probably agree with me, John. It feels simulator.
Yes.
It feels like a simulator board game, which is something I've not seen before.
It's 4 players they each have 8 sailors under their command, and you have to work with all the other people around the table, plus your own crew that you're managing, to get this monstrosity of metal through the water and actually doing something like firing a torpedo, which sounds easy on the surface, but it's really not.
Well, it's the way you guys have actually molded it. You have to have that cooperative aspect to the game. The navigator has to talk to the first officer. The first officer has to be talking to the captain, the mechanic, and the navigator to make sure that everything is updated in the app, because if he doesn't get clear orders, things are going to get missed. Yep. The captain has to keep track of all the morale so that he's not pushing his men too hard, and eventually they just go, no, Captain, you're going in the rubber dinghy and we're going to the Brits.
Yeah, the flow of information is one of the key things into this game.
Yeah, but the way you've designed it with the companion app, it takes care of so much of the housekeeping that will be such a heavy load to actually try and do this as pen and paper.
Yeah.
Very, very good choice, I would say.
The companion app, from my experience of the game so far, has been that the app takes care of the outside world. It lets you focus on what's inside the hull of your U-boat. You know, you're setting everything, you're doing everything, you're getting all the machinery working, and the app is telling you, yeah, this is working fine. Yeah, this is working fine. Oh, by the way, there's a contact over there. Oh, this is broken down. So I mean, it's really like like in an RTS, there's like the God view of it, you know, one person in control of everything. Well, the app is essentially in control of what happens to the U-boat. Yeah. You can react to it, but essentially the outside world is playing on you all the time.
So maybe this is the answer for everyone asking us why we are not making this game without the app.
Right. So. There have been so many people asking, can't you make it possible to play without the app? And the answer is, well, not so much, because it wouldn't be the same game anymore. No real-time aspect. And the app, as you have mentioned, is like the omniscient sort of, I don't know, naval guard. It knows where you are, which, well, you might not know, because if you get lost, if you don't check your...
don't look at
the navigator.
But come on, you might be maneuvering, you might need to hide underwater, so you can't check your exact
I'm just happy
position.
I didn't drive us into a cliff.
You made a very good navigator, especially for like 2 playthroughs.
All right, now, the app, like you said, it's that omniscient sort of world bubble, is the way I would describe it, because everything is just self-contained within that. But it doesn't take away from what you're doing on the tabletop, because what you're doing on the tabletop is managing the internal world of the U-boat. So cooking meals for everybody, taking care of medication for anyone that's got injured, taking care of repair work. I mean, like, John, you were running around going, where's my toolbox? Where's my toolbox? Oh, sorry, that was Az. Sorry.
I was watching Az running back and forth trying to find toolboxes and stuff, and it was just like, could you calm down a minute? Like,
but you do get that real-time aspect, gives you such a pressure cooker effect to it. It's so cool. Like, you start out and it's just like, hey, we're in a U-boat, we're gonna sail that way.
My favorite aspect of the application is that you can actually, first time, you can see into the game, look into the game. Like you're putting the observers on the deck, and you can see outside into the game, right? So that's
it's very cool to actually have that. You know, it's that clear delineation, because I mean, like, how many times have you seen like games where they try to do that, but both sort of aspects are on the table? I mean, if you tried to do this with, say, nothing but cards to represent the outside of the world, you'd probably have an event deck or something. You'd be flipping that over. Oh, there's a contact at bearing 135. It's 4 miles away. That information is now out there and open for everyone. With this, the opportunity to forget details and get lost makes it so much fun.
Yeah, so we took a lot of time balancing which aspects of the game ended up in the app and which were supposed to stay like a flesh and bones board game. And it was a difficult thing to do, because on the one hand, it's tempting to get more things into the app, so they get done automatically. But on the other hand, well, it's supposed to be primarily a board game with a digital component. So we had to get the balance right. And as you have mentioned a while ago, well, the delineation, the border is like whatever happens outside or is connected with the technical aspect of the U-boat. That's the app. And then the men inside, their morale, their I don't know, weaknesses, health problems, whatever. This is Flesh and Bones board game, cards, tokens, and so on.
Yeah, and then whenever you actually look at the board, you have everything divided down really nice and clean, and having this 3D board aspect to it as well, where you've got the actual submarine in front of you. It looks beautiful. If I pull this forward, you can actually see inside it. Now, you've made the top very narrow here. I'm assuming that's so people can see, yeah?
One thing is for people to be able to see into it more easily, and another thing is, well, you just put your guys here, so you don't need to reach inside. So for people with the bigger palms, and just to make it more...
Yeah, it makes it very playable, but having that three-dimensional aspect, it lets you imagine yourself within the world. You know, within this submarine, you can see your men moving and running about. So it's not as if it's just like, again, cards or tokens or chits that you're just placing on a flat map. It feels as if you're moving through this beast of the sea.
Yeah, and it is just the tip of the iceberg, actually, because as you can see, we still have the guns as, well, just flat graphics.
You're actually going to design the guns onto these?
So we're going to have, it's all to scale, both the figures and, of course, in relation to the boat, but you're going to have an 88 at 20mm. Yeah,
right. And of course, can we use those in the game to fire on something?
Yeah. Well, we have all sorts of crazy ideas, and we'd really love to implement them, including, like, you know, turning the cranks to turn the guns and everything. Yeah. So all sorts of options are on the table.
As a navigator, you would be operating the 20mm gun.
I think I can show
and
this.
The first officer has the 88.
So. Yeah, this is the thing I was looking at whenever I was controlling this. I've got the cook, everybody else is an observer. I've got one guy that runs the sextant, which is actually finding what grid in the map I'm in if I get that badly lost. And then I've got 2 guys that can run the 20mm, but I know for the demo we ran, it's not in the game just yet. Well, but I assume that's if, Fliegerlicht! Man the 20mm, shoot that man down.
Yeah, or you could just as well man the gun in anticipation. What if there is an air patrol? And it's all going to be modeled by the app. For example, right now the air patrols are in a very early state.
Yeah.
But in the final game, we're going to have all the air patrol areas just as they were in history. Yeah, so you can find maps showing air patrol ranges.
Right.
And as the game progresses, either via the campaign or through single missions, you're gonna need to work out like, okay, are we in air patrol range? Perhaps we should, get away.
Yeah, maybe we need to dive.
Yeah.
Looking for that miracle. What was it they called it? The Atlantic Gap.
Yes.
You're looking to stay in there.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the game is coming to Kickstarter. Yes.
Yes.
Do we know when?
Yes, of course. 22nd of January.
Okay.
So it's less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, at the time of filming, less than 2 weeks.
Yeah.
At the time of filming, let's throw that caveat out there.
Basically, 22nd of January.
Okay. This has me very, very tempted to jump in on it. I'm not going to lie, gents, because between me and John, we're looking at it going, what of our friends would we like to actually bring in and sit down and play this game afterwards? I mean, like, one of John's mates from his reenactment group, Lewis, I think he would love sitting down to play this. And I think it would be hilarious to see him as the first officer.
A lot of my reenactment guys would look at this and go, oh. Yeah. they'd be quite interested, particularly the German reenactors, funnily enough.
Right.
Really that.
But imagine that. Actually, the response that we got from the wargaming crowd was not so positive. Maybe their preference is like more into hex counters and dice. Yeah. But, until you see how it works, it might seem, game with minis and an app, how cool or accurate could it be? Yeah. And for wargamers who are very much into realism and historical accuracy, well, it's here but in a different way. You don't have like tables for two pages of tables. Like, okay, did we see anyone? Oh yes, we did. So it's this sort of thing or that sort of thing. Like you get in the Hunters, for example. It's all here in a different way. You need to check the periscope. You need to, for example, if the crew is getting, they're getting upset, or the players at the table, like, what are you doing? Yeah, let's do this. No, let's do that. So the captain has to keep them in check. So it's actually like keeping a fighting unit operational, like a real commander.
Yep. Yeah? Although that has actually given me a very interesting thought. Wargamers might not expect to work on this low a level of the actual wargaming or the gaming skill, because we talk about the different levels of wargaming, right?
Sure.
So you have something that's right at the top, operational level. You will have a hex and counter map where you're moving around all of the wolf packs in the Atlantic or up around the British Isles. This is coming way straight down to the very bottom. You are one boat alone hunting targets.
Yep.
Yeah, so we differentiate between among the three levels. Like you have the strategic level with the navigator, with all the things on the map and with all the air ranges, all the things that we hope to be able to introduce. Then you have the tactical level. Once you get into combat, you maneuver around the enemies, use the tactical map and all. And then you have that would be the operational level, when you have each and every member of the crew doing what they are supposed to be doing.
The per man level. Yeah. So I mean, like that is one of the things that draws me to the game, is that it's giving you such a different aspect to look at submarine warfare. Instead of looking at what wargamers are used to seeing, which is massed battlefields or skirmish games where you have maybe 5 or 6 submarines moving around a map. Yeah. Having a singular main unit that is essentially your life or death is in the hands of this, tube of steel floating in the ocean.
This is what I was saying between our playthroughs as well. This has the Das Boat feel.
Yeah.
It's you very rarely in that movie you very rarely see outside the U-boat. And even when they're on watch, you're looking at them looking out. You're not getting to see the wider world. They're not getting to see the wider world.
Not so much. Yeah.
And the whole thing is this crew staying alive but trying to do its job.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what you're trying to do in this. You're trying to stay alive and do your job.
Yeah, like we even had a few moments during the game that were very similar to what you would have seen during that movie. The moment where you have the scene where they open the top hatch after being under for ages and they're all standing beneath it, gasping for air. We had a moment where there was toxic gas in there. We opened the hatch, it went away. So I just imagine our guys going, okay, The engineer farted. Don't let him do that again.
All right. And one thing we are really happy with, and we were actually also a little bit worried about initially, was to put the captain in charge. Yeah, like when we realized at some point, okay, we have a captain and 3 other officers, and we need a commander, because in real time you're not gonna be able to like ask everybody. Like, of course, when there are those calm moments, you can discuss and the other crew members can suggest, but there has to be this one voice that says, okay, do it now. Like diving stations, go. And we thought that it would maybe not work at some point, because there's also always this alpha player problem of co-op board games. Yeah, but here we turned it around. I hope. Well, maybe you as the captain or as a crew member, you could.
From what I saw, because the game is designed so well, you slip directly into your role. You don't look at it, sit there saying, "I'm the navigator, but I'm running this show." You're sitting there going, "No, I'm the navigator. I have my job to do. I have my things to take care of." And I need to turn to the captain and say, "Captain, I would suggest we do this right now." And then the captain, because you've actually named him the captain in the game, it's a little psychological trick, I would say, where people look at it and go, "Okay, he's playing the captain. That's the captain." You know, so it does play into that. It's almost got a bit of a role playing aspect to it, where you're dropping into the role that you've picked to play during the game.
But I find personally that the captain's role isn't to stand and lord over everybody else on deck. It's to listen to an example in our game. I listened to you and Justin talking about course corrections and how it was zigzag, and I would only occasionally throw in the odd comment and say, if we catch them when they do this, that might give us our best attack vector and stuff like that. And the 3 of us were all sat there going, pretty much that's the decision melded, rather than one person going, "No, we do this." Occasionally at one point where I just said, "No, full head."
But that's you saying, "I don't think this is going to work right now. I think we should hold course." And actually having the authority within the game to do that is actually a very good thing, because then it keeps it clean. It doesn't let things get mushed and confused with, "Okay, we'll go with this person's idea. Okay, we're going with that person's idea. We're going with that person's idea." And then you've got 3 ideas that you're trying to pull off, which are maybe going north, south, and east.
And I think the captain's role in the game fills a very important role in that respect, as he feels like a time manager more than a crew manager. You know, because he's the one that's aware when a contact happens and 2 people are discussing, the navigator and the first officer are discussing something. The captain's the one that's in his head. It's going tick, 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 tick. This is getting worse the longer we wait.
Definitely.
I do like the aspect that nobody's useless within the game. I mean, like, there were moments when the engineers were completely tuckered out, but someone else could step up. Yes, it was costing them more to do it, but they could step in and fulfill those roles, just not as efficiently. So having that ability to keep things running without it needing to be absolutely everybody in the right place, enough flexibility to keep the game fun.
Yeah, it's been intended that way. So as you have noted yourselves, the captain's guys, the crew, and the first officer's crew don't have as much to do as the other guys. This is because they are, first, the captain has to have everything in control. So he has so many things to wrap his head around, but his guys are used very extensively during the torpedo attack. So they are necessary. And the thing is that, well, everybody on a U-boat, the crews were trained so that everybody could do everything, but certain people were specialized. They specialized in particular tasks, so they could do them better, optimally. So, and this way you don't end up in a situation where everybody is, well, all the guys that are supposed to do something are busy, and then what? You cannot do it.
Chief engineer has dislocated fingers so you can repair anything.
No, it's all right. Just pass me the wrench. It'll take me a minute longer, but just give it here.
That's basically it.
Honestly, for me, 10 out of 10, guys. I've really, really enjoyed sitting down and playing it.
Very nice.
I cannot wait to see it come out on Kickstarter. I would love to have a copy here in the office whenever it finally is finished, just because I would love to sit down with the guys again to play another playthrough.
Definitely.
Because with that app, your replayability is only limited by what's programmed into the app, and I'm sure all the programming and variables that are going to go into it are going to leave for a really expansive gameplay experience, which is going to be very cool.
I have a feeling there isn't going to be a single mission that's going to be the same, and if even if the layout of the opposing force is the same, your reaction immediately changes it. You know, and that's what's really intriguing.
Well, it is programmable. You know, each square here can contain a mix of different things, And another thing is like between the 2 playthroughs that we had. Yeah. So each enemy that appears, well, it can be a different group.
Yeah.
It can go a different way.
Yep.
And there will be more and more variables on top of that, like day and night. Then you have changing weather, various messages from the HQ. So you can play this mission like, I don't know, 10 times, and it will be different each and every time, and depending on your actions, what you do, what happens. So yeah, we were really focused on getting it replayable as much as possible.
Like I've said, if I say anything more, I'm just going to be repeating myself. Actually, an article on the enjoyment that I've had with this. I mean, like, the first game we played was very interesting because we actually came across a convoy with 2 ships and 1 escort. And, we went after it, blew up one of the convoy ships and just went, hurrah, we feel good, let's go hunting again. And then we promptly ran out of time. The second game, so different. Again, I'm not going to give stuff away. Go and watch it if you want to see it. Well, gentlemen, thank you for coming in and talking to us.
Thanks for having us.
We covered everything.
Fantastic.
Have we missed anything?
I don't think so. Well, we could sit here for hours.
There's so much to talk about.
Honestly, if we had time right now, I'd be going out with you guys to play this again. Everybody, I tell you what, get your comments in below. Tell us what do you think of UBOOT. I love it. I cannot wait to see it on Kickstarter. If you're interested, make sure and check it out when it launches on the
22nd of January.
We will move on. We will see you in the next one.
Hi, I'm Adnan from Monolith, and you're watching The Weekender on BeastsOfWar.com.
I want it back in the studio. I want to play again.
It's a blessing and a curse getting a prototype in sometimes, because usually they have to take it away because it's being used for designers and testing still at this stage. And knowing that we weren't allowed to keep this one, I was like, oh man, but more missions, and we need to do better next time.
Well, you see, I would love to actually play it again, just because I would love to change which role I had was playing.
Yes.
Because I was playing the navigator as you were playing the engineer, but I think you would have done very well as the navigator, because I think
it's tricky.
Well, you see, but I think you have that spatial awareness to actually sort of kind of guesstimate where you are.
You described it very well about saying try and picturing it in your head. And that's what those guys kind of had to do whenever you're thinking about how much time has passed, how fast you're going, what your bearing is. I initially was very intimidated by that role.
Really?
But see, because it's you don't want to be the one that crashes the submarine into the side of Scotland. You don't want to be that. You don't want to be that guy. So it's quite that's engineering's just kind of like, I'm fixing this thing. It's a little less terrifying. I really liked it.
3D awareness inside your own head is something that everybody has. Everybody does. I mean, like. All right, I bet you do it on a daily basis without even knowing it.
Okay, when?
When you cross the road.
Okay.
You look up at a car and decide, is that coming at me fast enough for me to actually make it across? And you'll imagine, have I moved across? Can I make it before you actually walk?
I like the way you think I look before I cross the road. If I was in America, I'd be done for jaywalking all the time.
No, this is the thing. I come back from America to here, to the UK, I'm looking the wrong way when I go to cross the road.
Yeah.
That is not fun.
To be fair to the rest of the world, we're the ones that drive on the wrong side. I'm pretty sure the majority of the world drive on the right.
I think it's like us and maybe one other country that drive on the same side of the road.
It's slow. It's definitely, I think the majority, definitely on the other side. What can you do? If you want to go check UBOOT out, go and check them out on Kickstarter. Depending on when you watch this, they'll either have their preview page up or they'll have their full page going. I think it's really worth a punt. I think it's... for me, I was initially intimidated because it can look quite heavy, but the basis of the game and getting into it's really quite simple, and the excitement in the events as they happen were really engaging.
The other thing I like is the actual app itself is not overly power intensive to your phone. So I think we ran it through a session of it on 61%, and we're down to 11% at the end of it. So it'll take like half your battery to play through the thing, but that's not bad.
That is some tech information right there. Oh my word. Nothing worse than if you're about to sink a destroyer and your phone cuts out, man.
Oh my god.
The periscope just goes black and you're like... Anyway. Also on the Kickstarter front then, we wanted to talk about a couple of very different ones. So getting away from historical and the submarine, we have 2 completely different wild Kickstarters to look at. So what's the first one, Ben?
Okay, so the first one is called Everdell. And yes, it does have cute, tiny, awesome animals in it.
There are anthropomorphic animals on screen, Ben.
Exactly, and I'm going to keep them there forever. Anyway,
hold on. So wait, get me right. So you're fine with that word I can't say.
Anthropomorphic.
Animals, but not animals that are like human. I keep forgetting which way around it is.
No, anthropomorphized animals are animals who appear human.
And Ben's okay with that, but he's not okay.
I don't like people animals. I like animal people. Yeah?
Yeah.
That's right.
Just making sure before we go any further that we're on the right page.
Fair enough. I have a couple of college humor videos I need to send you, Ben.
Whoa, okay, fair enough.
That could be anything. Anyway, but
if you like the college humor stuff, there's a couple of videos there. I'm sending them to him. You can pester him about it.
We're not getting to see him, just Ben. Anyway, let's see what's up.
But yeah, sorry. So this is Everdell, and this is by Gamesflute and Starling Games, and this is for 1 to 4 players, and it's a tableau worker placement style game. It takes about 20 minutes per player, and the whole idea of it is that it takes a lot of mechanics from, if you're familiar with them, the likes of Seven Wonders or Race for the Galaxy. You are going to try and build the best 15-card tableau that you can in front of you. And this can be done through various different means. You have this huge stack of cards, which means every time you come down to play the game each time, it's going to be very, very different. You'll be gathering resources. You'll be using these cards to play for other cards. You'll be picking up these resources to then play certain things down onto the tabletop. You then have the option to do a lot of chain stuff as well. So you've got to really, really think tactically about what cards you're playing earlier in your turn and sort of earlier throughout the game, leading on towards later cards down the road, because the cards that you play earlier may, in some cases, allow you to play things for free and stuff. So it's got a nice little tactical edge to it. It's very simple and easy to play, as I say there. A very short game time as well when you think about it too. So once you get up to speed with the rules a little bit more for this, I think maybe it's one of these things where you get really stuck into it, maybe get a game done in about half an hour, 40 minutes as well, probably. So yeah. And of course, the board itself looks absolutely amazing, and the artwork is phenomenal as well, because it has this really wonderful 3D tree that they've built into this, which I thought was amazing, just fantastic.
Yeah, we'll bring that back up in a second, actually. Yeah, there it is, because it's absolutely the thing that stood out to me, apart from the little mouse and tortoise.
Tortoise?
Oh my goodness. My words there are awful. The little meeples were gorgeous. The art looks wonderful. It looks nice and simple and evocative. And for, I think it was 12 and up or 50, or it's named at just preteen kind of age. It looks like a wonderful little game.
It looks odd to me.
Looks odd to you? I understand that.
Right, now, me, everybody knows I like my little bit of darkness, my little bit of heavy metal. This is way too cutesy for me. I ain't gonna play this. This is too cute. I would die trying to play this. My cold, dead heart would just go, no!
Oh, but look at the berries and the twigs and the little tokens for collecting food and pebbles.
The pebbles actually look like pebbles. How can you not like that?
The snozberries taste like snozberries, Justin.
Oh God, Willy Wonka, really?
Ow! Childhood! Ow! Excuse me. I think it's really eye-catching. I think it's a gorgeous little game. I'll need to delve into the mechanics. I don't think the aesthetics are enough for me to say I want to back this. I'm going to do a Ben here and say if somebody got it, I would definitely play it. I'm going to do a Ben, but I'm definitely going to delve in and have a little nosy. There's 5 days left on it?
I think it's about 5 days left at the time of this going out as well. But one of the interesting things I wanted to just throw in there as well, I talked a little bit about this sort of replay value to it, because they have this huge stack of cards, which means that every time you put them down and stuff like that onto the tableau in front of you that you buy from, you're always going to have something different and something interesting tactically to go and look for.
Yeah.
The other thing as well is that they're going to have sort of inbuilt game objectives. So you can almost do they're considered variants, I guess, in the game. So there's one which is all about drafting. So at the beginning, you choose your hand of starting cards, and then the other one is these sort of event objectives that come up, and they're going to be random each time as well. So you'll always have something interesting to aim for, and it means that you'll never end up in the situation where there's only ever one route to victory, which I think can be a big problem in sort of these kind of tableau style games for other ones in the collections and stuff out there. But this one seems like it's got some really nice stuff going on. And as I say, it just looks cutesy and amazing, and it's got really cool animals in it, so why would you not back it, I suppose? So.
If you're interested in getting your kids into games, you got to bite the bullet and buy a couple of these. These lead into Pandemics, these lead into Seven Wonders. These are going to be your gateway games for your younger generations. Just
or if you just prefer bright, fluffy, happy games.
Exactly, absolutely. We can.
Yay!
No, look, we actually have we actually have a second.
Hey, that's bright and fluffy to the right kind of person.
Cargo Master Bright. That's a Beast of War. Ben says Cargo Master, bright and fluffy to the right kind of person. Yeah, I mean, to each their own. Different horses for different courses.
Well, there are some people that like to sit down and play truck driving simulators.
I have played a substantial amount of time of Euro Truck Simulator 2. I bought a steering wheel with pedals. This is a wee bit off topic, but I bought a steering wheel and pedals.
Yeah.
I got it very cheap. I bought it from like I think it was CEX, a second-hand store. And it was particularly for a game called Project Cars, kind of simulator racing game. And I thought, if I'm going to get it, let's go full hog. And I loved it. I really liked it. Yeah. But the thing, this is going to sound awful, but the thing that put me off it is after like 5 races, you're kind of tense and your arms kind of go a bit, and you know it's good, and you want to use the steering wheel and you want to play it, but you're just like, I don't really feel like putting myself through. You know, I could play with a controller relaxed, or I could play with the steering wheel and immerse myself, but it's a lot more effort. You want something relaxed, but I still want to use the wheel, and all of a sudden along comes Euro Truck Simulator for like £3 or something, and they've got a multiplayer mode so you can go online and deliver goods all around Calais and Dover and Germany and France and and you can honk at guys passing by.
Are the maps not like 1-to-1 scale as well?
No. It's I don't know, it's something with it. No, like you could drive from Edinburgh to London in like 20 minutes. Okay. You know, so and the roads aren't even remotely replicative of the terrain is roughly like the terrain's kind of what you think the country's terrain should be. It doesn't look great, but all the sounds are there, and there's something to be said for just seeing other people doing their thing too. Everyone's just doing little jobs and stuff. God help you if you have to queue at Dover to get to Calais. It's a nightmare. Anyone's ever been? Please, somebody watching on YouTube or Beast of War, if you played Euro Truck Simulator, please comment so I don't feel like such a loser.
I'll tell you what, link a Let's Play.
Link a Let's Play?
Yeah. I don't. If any of the big Let's Players out there have done it, I think it could be a hilarious thing to watch. So have a look for it.
Yeah, I do think like Markiplier and some of the big YouTube guys have done Let's Plays of it, but I'm not sure if they've done it seriously or taken the mick out of it or just crashing or whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, anyway,
listen,
that was a tangent.
There's always someone who will play a game.
Absolutely.
That moral of the story.
So, speaking of another game, this is actually another board game, but it's one that we got to play earlier on this week. And
I didn't, because I came down with the lurgy.
You were, Justin was meant to play it with us. You were meant to captain the ship of Nemesis with us. Yeah. But unfortunately, plague
struck.
So, how is Nemesis doing on Kickstarter at the minute, Ben?
It's doing very well so far. It is done exceptionally well and burst through its funding goal. And at the time, anyway, of filming this, it's over 1 million. So it's doing exceptionally good. So yeah.
So what is this as an overview? So basically, like, to give guys a home a feel, I mean, the easy thing to say is an alien board game. It's kind of what it looks like. But if you're going to do a cooperative game about being stuck on a ship with some intruders, with some beasts from another planet, it's always going to have that kind of feel, really. But it's 1 to 5 players, semi-cooperative. So there's different objectives that you're going to be given a choice between at the start of each game that's going to basically help set up whether you're trying to get the ship back to Earth, whether you're actually going to betray one of your fellow crewmen, or maybe you're more interested in stealing one of the intruder eggs and taking it back to your corporate bosses to try and win some quick cash, you know, Weyland-Yutani style, let's not lie, that's what they like to do. So you're always fighting against time. The ship's got a countdown until it jumps, and basically you're all waking up from hibernatorium, your hibernation, with amnesia. So you have to explore a ship with these tiles that are randomly placed, finding each room by room as you go through, but you're also fighting against the ship jumping again, and if you don't find out where the ship is going, point it where you want it to go, and get back into hypersleep in essence before it jumps, you're going to get obliterated. You know, you're not going to survive the jump. You also have the potential, obviously, to be hunted by these intruders. Yeah. And they are vicious and obviously unrelenting, and you basically, they kind of, whenever we met the guys at Working Realms at Essen, they basically said, don't fight. Unless you have to fight, don't fight. And they're right. You generally need to just be booking it.
This is where I would probably feel that the game, being a wargamer, I'm used to being able to stand up and say, "What monster? No, I have a gun."
But you see, as soon as you got a shotgun.
Yep.
And there's an alien in front of you, and your shotgun has 2 shots in it. Once you use those 2 shots, you have no more shots.
Okay.
And it takes an action to reload shots. The alien is likely to take something between 2 and 4 shots to kill it.
Oh. How about no?
Yeah, this is the thing. You're presented with these choices where you're like, I could fight this, and fighting this, if I roll well and I hit it, could be the thing. But the cool thing about it is you can go and research dead crewmen. You can go and research the alien eggs or the alien bodies to work out weaknesses. So in our Let's Play, which you can go and watch, and again, we'll link it below, we found, I can't remember this right, we found a weakness on the alien that meant we could do more damage to it with fire, I think it was.
Okay.
Thinking back. So you can find things like if you hit it, you do more damage, or maybe you can close them off, or maybe you can find out how to slow them down. These different things, depending on how you spend time, you could find out how to abuse the aliens. But speaking about time, you think 15 rounds is enough, but then all of a sudden, the pilot can engage a jump key, which it's like an emergency jump key, which increases how quickly you go to jump. So all of a sudden, you go from 15 rounds to 6.
Oh.
To make that even worse, there's a room which can be used to activate or deactivate destruction of the whole ship. Self-destruction. That takes 5 rounds. And now, you may not be surprised, but some of the objectives say things like, blow up the ship. So you're all of a sudden 3 rounds into a game, Colin, just not saying anything, and you think the game's going really well, and you think everything's going good, you're coming to the end of the round and someone, Colin, activates the self-destruct on the ship.
Right.
When you're at the wrong end of the ship.
Oh.
And
was
there's
he at
alien.
the right end of the ship to actually get to an escape pod?
He was, at the time, you have to watch the Let's Play.
Yeah.
Because it was
intense.
intense.
I did look. It is like a 2-hour Let's Play.
Yeah, I think it was like an hour and 45 minutes or something in the end. Myself, Lance, and Colin. It's the game. The game has a fantastic building tension. Anyway, it's on Kickstarter. If you want to go check it out. We had a blast playing it, and we were just playing the prototype, which was a real treat. I know they've knocked through stretch goals, so I'm hoping they do well, and I'm hoping people get the opportunity to pick up on it. We're going to talk tomorrow, actually, on the XLBS on Sunday morning. We're going to have a chat about Kickstarters, actually. I'm really interested to get some community feedback, because we're in the new year. There's been a couple of big Kickstarters already, with HATE, with UBOOT coming. I think it's going to be pretty big. Nemesis has done very well, and I'm curious to see tomorrow, if you haven't joined Backstage before, you can come along and get a free 7-day trial and come along tomorrow, and we're going to have a big chat, the 3 of us, about what we think makes a successfully backed and a well-backed or well-funded Kickstarter, because there's been a few that are leaps and bounds ahead of others.
Yeah, there are some that just went nuclear last year.
I realised the minis in that game as well are really, really good. Anyone familiar with Lords of Hellas that Awakened Realms did before, you know, that standard and better of the sculpts they did with the gods in Lords of Hellas. So it's worth a look if you think it's up your street. Yeah.
Okay.
So to round out the show, we promised.
Let's tell people how they're going to win.
We promised we would give this bad boy away. How are they going to do it? If they come along to beastofwar.com, what do they have to do in the comments?
So basically, on this post on beastofwar.com, what we want you to do is create a new guild and name a full roster. So that is 5 players and 1 mascot for your new team. A little bit of help for you is generally whenever the guys at Steamforge make a guild, they name the players after sort of key things from the guild. So if it's the Masons, if it's the Butchers, Butchers, you've got Ox, you've got
Skillet,
you've got Fillet.
Yeah. Skillet and Fillet.
Yeah. You've got Boiler, and so on and so forth. So that is what we want you to do in the comments below for your chance to win the Dark Harvest set.
All right, there you go. There it is.
That's Dark Harvest set.
Yeah, that's it. So you don't have to go into too much detail. Just give us the name of what your guild will be called. Give us 5 player names, 1 mascot name. Yeah, got to get the mascot in there too as well for a 6th one. And every single person that does that over on beastofwar.com will be entered into a random draw. And we'll always pick out some of our favorites.
I'm expecting some hilarious ones here.
As we know, if you watch, normally I'm a bit uneasy about saying naughty things. So I'm not saying we won't read out naughty ones, but I may not. You or Warren can do it.
Oh, yeah. If you come up with the best naughty ones that I can make Warren laugh and fall out of his seat with, go.
Yeah, that's an added bonus if you can do that.
Yeah.
Right, well, look, that's us. That's the show for today. Look, we hope you have a lovely day's hobby. As I said, come along and join us tomorrow for the XLBS. You've got that 7-day free trial if you want to come along to beastofwar.com and sign up over there. Yeah.
Let's not forget to remind people, we do have the Mythic Battles competition running at the minute.
Yes.
Which is being ran for our backstagers.
Yeah. This is the kind of prize, a Typhon pledge for Mythic Battles Pantheon, which is not going to retail because you cannot buy it. It's something that we said, backstagers, This is a real treat. We've got challenges up every week over the next. Last week was the first one with 4 more weeks to go for chances for you to get in and win that if you're interested. Cool. All right. Well, look, thanks so much, Ben. Thanks so much, Justin, for all your time, and thanks so much, everyone, for watching along. Have a great day, and we'll hopefully see you tomorrow.
Go ahead and check out our other content on screen now, and be sure to check out beastsofwar.com for the latest gaming news and gaming Let's Plays. And while you're at it, why not hit subscribe and remember to ding our dong. Go on, you know you want to click it. Go on.